I'm Veronica Dudo. Tonight on EWTN News Nightly, Israel's surprise strike. The attack targets senior Hamas leadership in Qatar, what it means for a potential ceasefire. Birthday book, lawmakers take a closer look at the files from the estate of Jeffrey Epstein, including items mentioning Presidents Trump and Clinton. Verge of collapse, friction in France as for the third time in 14 months, a prime minister is ousted. Plus a peak performer. Among the legacies left by Pope St. John Paul II is his love of the outdoors. These stories and more tonight.
From EWTN, the Global Catholic Network, this is EWTN News Nightly.
Thank you for being with us on the Feast of St. Peter Claver. Our top story tonight. The White House is responding after Israel attacks Hamas leaders in Qatar, a U.S. ally that has served as a key mediator between the two sides. The Trump administration says it feels very badly about the location of the strike and calls it an unfortunate incident. Today's strike takes place as discussions for a ceasefire in Gaza continue with little, if any, progress. White House correspondent Owen Jensen reports. Owen?
Veronica, good evening to you. Well, President Trump clearly not happy about that attack in Doha. He spoke with Israel's prime minister as well as Qatar, and he told Qatar's leaders it won't happen again on their soil.
Black smoke rises over Doha, the capital of Qatar, after an Israeli attack going after Hamas leadership. Israel quickly claiming responsibility. In the White House press briefing room, Caroline Levitt tells reporters,
unilaterally bombing inside Qatar, a sovereign nation and close ally of the United States that is working very hard and bravely taking risks with us to broker peace, does not advance Israel or America's goals. However, eliminating Hamas, who have profited off the misery of those living in Gaza, is a worthy goal.
The nearly two-year-old conflict that has left tens of thousands of people dead, now facing more uncertainty of what comes next.
President Trump wants all of the hostages in Gaza and the bodies of the dead released, and this war to end now.
President Donald Trump posted earlier this week, everyone wants this war to end. The Israelis have accepted my terms. It is time for Hamas to accept as well. I have warned Hamas about the consequences of not accepting. This is my last warning. There will not be another one. Israel has long threatened to strike Hamas leaders wherever they are, but Qatar condemned the strike, calling it a flagrant violation of all international laws and norms. And the UN Secretary General criticized the strike as well.
I condemn this flagrant violation of the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Qatar. All parties must work towards achieving a permanent ceasefire, not destroying it.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the decision was taken after a shooting attack in Jerusalem that left 6 people dead and an attack on Israeli forces in Gaza that killed 4 soldiers. At the same time, Israel gears up for a major offensive aimed at taking over Gaza City, urging a full evacuation, also destroying several high-rise buildings. Israeli leaders have accused Hamas of using the buildings for military infrastructure. And in a video message, the mother of a hostage held in Gaza said she was shaking with fear for her son's life, following Israel's targeting of Hamas in Qatar.
Now, President Trump was notified ahead of the attack in Qatar. It's not clear how many casualties there were, but Hamas, the terror group, says that its top leader survived, but 5 lower-level members were killed. At the White House, Owen Jensen, EWTN News Nightly.
Now we'd like to welcome back to the program EWTN News contributor Alberto Fernandez. Alberto, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
So first, let's begin with what does the strike in Qatar mean for ceasefire negotiations now?
Well, it's actually not clear what it means. It's not even clear what actually was accomplished by it. As you heard in the report, we're not even sure who was killed. It looks like the Israelis failed in this decapitation strike, that they got some Hamas officials, but certainly not the senior leadership. The question now is, who is strengthened by this and who is weakened by this, leading to the next step in this end game that we're seeing?
What could this mean for the hostages still being held by Hamas?
Well, obviously, many are concerned that it could be much worse for them. Their situation is already terrible. However, they are the one trump card. They are the one valuable commodity that Hamas still maintains. So it's in their interest to keep the ones alive, and to hold on to them for their value in trading for their own people and kind of political advantage.
Now, officials say the Trump administration was notified before the strike. How does that tie into the situation?
I'm sure they were, but of course, what is not mentioned is how long before the strike were the Americans notified. It could very well be that the Americans were notified just a very short period of time before the actual strikes. Maybe the planes were already on the way. Maybe the missiles were already on the way. So there's this ambiguity, which I think both the Israelis and the Americans want to maintain for obvious reasons. But the Israelis, I think, are probably a little irritated that the administration has been quite open with its unhappiness at the operation.
Certainly, a lot remains unclear. Do we know yet how Qatar might respond to this attack? And what about regional neighbors in the area?
Regional neighbors, including critics of Qatar, have rallied to it. So you have regimes in countries like Saudi Arabia or like the UAE who have been critics of Qatar in the past, have rallied to its defense and, expressed solidarity with the Qataris. The Qataris said that they're out of the negotiation business as a result of the attack. But those were early words, and obviously it'll be interesting to see what the Americans say to the Qataris in the next day. Paradoxically, this strike could make things much worse, or it could also actually even, strangely enough, provide a way out for several of the parties.
A lot is happening so quickly. What kind of impact will this have on the humanitarian situation in Gaza?
The humanitarian situation in Gaza will continue the way it already is, regardless of the strike, which is there going to be a massive on-the-ground offensive by the Israelis in Gaza City in the coming days, as we have discussed, as the Israelis have intimated? Either way, we're near the end of this war. We're almost 2 years from the starting date of the war, just less than a month from now, on October 7th. So we're near the end game. The question remains how much more suffering and how much more damage will be done on different sides before it's wrapped up.
We'll have to leave it there. Alberto, thank you so much for your insight today.
Thank you.
The House Oversight Committee released more records from convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein's estate, including hundreds of pages from a book compiled by Ghislaine Maxwell for his 50th birthday in 2003. The new material is drawing a lot of reaction from lawmakers. Capitol Hill correspondent Eric Rosales has the latest. Eric.
Well, good evening, Veronica. Yes, Epstein's so-called birthday book includes a letter allegedly written by President Donald Trump when he was a private citizen. Democrats say that the material shows a close relationship between the two, but both President Trump and White House officials deny that he ever wrote or even signed the note, and Republicans say they believe the president.
President Trump says it's not his signature, he didn't write it. Your thoughts on that?
I feels like the Democrats just come up with something every day. So, I don't think he says it's not his. I believe him.
Others agree.
Well, clearly the birthday note from President Trump is a fallacy. It's just not true. And that's a leftist talking point. It's horrible.
Oversight Committee Chairman Congressman James Comer of Kentucky accuses Democrats of, quote, cherry-picking documents and politicizing information. But Democrats say President Trump had said the infamous birthday book didn't exist, and now it does.
That card does have Donald Trump's name on it. The fact that they continue to want to deny that these files truly even exist and that there are survivors is befuddling.
pretty early on into the review of these documents, we catch the president in a lie already, right? And so I just want to know what the FBI has. What does the DOJ have? What are they withholding from us at this point? Because they've so far only selectively released documents. We want answers.
A letter bearing the name of former President Bill Clinton was also included in the book with the title Friends. In 2019, when Epstein was arrested, a Clinton spokesperson claims the former president hadn't spoken to him in over a decade and knows nothing about the terrible crimes. Both sides agree all files must be released while still protecting the victims.
Those young ladies, as far as I'm concerned, were raped. Under the age of 18, they were sexually abused. So I want everything in the open, and I think that that Congressman Comer is trying to get that done as efficiently as possible.
Republican Congresswoman Nancy Mace, a victim of sexual abuse, says that other people, like drivers and even pilots who flew the planes, must be held accountable as well. The newly released records also include Epstein's will and details about a deal Epstein made with federal prosecutors. Members of the Oversight Committee tell me that they will continue to get unredacted versions of the documents in the days ahead. However, it's unclear if those records will be made public. At the Capitol, Eric Rosales, EWTN News Nightly.
Now to Ukraine, where Russia is ramping up its aerial assaults despite President Trump's push to persuade Russian President Vladimir Putin to agree to a ceasefire and enter peace talks. Officials say a Russian glide bomb struck a village in Ukraine's eastern Donetsk region. At least 24 people were killed and 19 others wounded. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is urging the international community to hold Moscow accountable with tougher economic sanctions. This comes as Russia launches its largest aerial attack on Sunday in Ukraine since the start of the war, hitting the cabinet of ministers in Kyiv for the first time. Meanwhile, U.S.-led peace efforts remain stalled. Joining us now is Father Serhiy Zaharchenko, the news director of EWTN Ukraine. Father, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
First, can you describe the current mood on the ground in Kyiv as Russia escalates its aerial attacks? And what spiritual or pastoral needs are you observing in communities that have been hit the hardest?
It's not for the first time that Kyiv is under attack. Normally, when we live in Kyiv, during the week, among these 7 days, 3 or 4 days, normally we are under shelling, drones and rockets. And of course, every night you go sleep and we are fully aware that you can be buried under hundreds of tons, bricks or concrete, because when the rocket hits the block of flat, it just collapsed. It just collapsed. And of course, these kind of attacks, it's usually almost every day. So the pastoral needs, when we see that people now become homeless, we try to help them with the different things like food, I don't know what is needed to live in other place, in other block of flats or something like that. And of course, what is important, we pray and we ask and we try to be as ambassadors in different countries during different meetings to persuade people that it's not easy and still we are under this dangerous moment. And what is also important, it's even worse if we are talking about drone and rocket attacks on different cities in Ukraine.
Now, of course, highlighting what's happening on the ground versus what people from the outside are looking at, President Zelensky is calling for tougher international sanctions against Russia. In your view, has the international response been adequate so far, or are Ukrainians beginning to feel abandoned by the West?
Many Ukrainians just appreciate the help they have received from different countries. And of course, among people, there are a lot of questions why it is so long period of time to take decisions, different kind of decisions. If we're talking about financial or military aid, we still ask, we still try to find answers, because this is the 4th year of the war. Soon, in a couple months, we will have a 5th year of the war. So every time we prepare during the following year, or in our mind, if you would like to survive, you need to prepare yourself and to say to yourself, okay, this following year probably will be war. So a lot of questions, and we have no answers. Why it is so long? Why maybe international community afraid of consequences when they give more, let's say, more powerful arguments to protect ourselves, to protect Ukraine. So we try do not lose our faith and courage. We try to live our daily normal life, because if we want, we will go down with our mood, with our all intentions and all what we need to do in order to survive. So a lot of people just looking for aid, like psychologists, a lot of people suffer from this depression, and the more lasts war, the more people need help.
Father Serhiy Zaharchenko of EWTN Ukraine, thank you for your time, your witness, and your ministry during these incredibly difficult days.
Thank you for having me.
We have a lot more still to come on EWTN News Nightly, including government collapse, why 2 prime ministers have stepped down, and what officials fear may come next. And a new report shows Christians were targeted by the Biden administration. We look at the findings. In France, concerns of nationwide protests after the resignation of the prime minister. François Bayrou is the 3rd prime minister to step down since early 2024. It happened after he lost a confidence vote in parliament. Now more than 80,000 security personnel are set to be deployed across the country in anticipation of widespread demonstrations. Meanwhile, in Nepal, another prime minister is stepping down. This comes after more than a dozen people were killed during youth-led protests. They were sparked by a government ban on social media platforms and poor economic opportunities. Protesters set fire to the home of the Minister of Energy and vandalized the homes of several other leaders. Now to Brazil, which has the world's largest Catholic population. Former President Jair Bolsonaro is awaiting for the country's Supreme Court to decide his fate. He is accused of orchestrating a coup to hang onto power illegally after his 2022 electoral defeat to rival Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. Already, one judge has voted to convict him.
There is no doubt in all these convictions, and in more than 500 agreements of non-prosecution, that there was an attempt to abolish the democratic rule of law, an attempted coup, and the existence of a criminal organization that caused damage to public property.
Now, 4 more judges will vote in a public session over the next few days. If 3 of the 5 judges find him guilty, the 70-year-old Bolsonaro could face 40 years in prison. The case stems back to the 2022 presidential election. Bolsonaro, who served a single term from 2019 to 2022, stands accused of leading a criminal organization that conspired to overthrow Lula, but failed for a lack of support from high-ranking members of the military. Prosecutors also claimed Bolsonaro was aware of a plot to assassinate both President-elect Lula along with Supreme Court Justice Alexandre de Moraes, as well as inciting the violent storming of government buildings on January 18, 2023, after casting doubt on Brazil's electoral system. Bolsonaro denies the charges.
On January 8th, I was in the United States. One of the 5 charges against me is destruction of property, only if it were by telepathy. They conducted a fishing expedition, turned everyone's life upside down. There were 3 search and seizure operations at my house, and they found nothing against me.
Bolsonaro says the allegations are politically motivated, a sentiment echoed by his supporters and U.S. President Donald Trump. In Washington, D.C., the Trump administration has condemned the trial as political persecution and escalated tensions by slapping 50% tariffs on Brazilian goods, along with sanctions targeting Justice Moraes, who is overseeing the case. Adding fuel to the fire, Bolsonaro's son, Eduardo, a congressman, admitted he successfully lobbied Washington for those tariffs, saying that freedom comes first before the economy. The verdicts are expected to send shockwaves through Brazil's fragile democracy and could reshape its ties with the United States. A new report says the Biden administration consistently and systematically targeted Christians, including Catholics. The findings are from the Department of Justice task force started in February by the Trump administration to combat anti-Christian practices. The new report accuses the Biden administration of policies and practices that singled out Christian people and houses of worship. It also says under Merrick Garland, officials refused to probe allegations of anti-Christian bias. In a statement, the report says, in part, quote, the federal government will never again be permitted to turn its power against people of faith. The days of anti-Christian bias in the federal government are over. Just released data shows reading skills among high school seniors in the U.S. reached a new low. The findings are from national test scores known as the nation's report card. It says reading levels are their lowest since 1992. Roughly 1/3 lack basic reading skills. U.S. high school seniors also showed their lowest scores in math since 2005. Up next on EWTN News Nightly, Upon This Rock, Pope John Paul II wasn't just a successor to St. Peter. We'll delve deeper into his love of mountain climbing. Plus, learn more about St. Peter, Claver, and his outreach to slaves in Colombia. St. Pier Giorgio Frassati's canonization reminded the world of his love of God and of the outdoors, especially mountain climbing. But he is not the only recent saint whose passion for the mountains drew him closer to God. EWTN Vatican journalist Magdalena Walinska-Reedy has more.
St. Pier Giorgio Frassati, who was just canonized on Sunday, found a path to God in the mountains. But he was not the only one. Pope St. John Paul II too would often turn to their peaks and heights to encounter God. In the early years of his pontificate, he would slip out of the Vatican, hiding behind the newspaper in the car, accompanied only by his secretary, Don Stanislao, and 2 or 3 other priests.
At the beginning, the Pope would go out without police, without any protection. He was never afraid, he had no fear. He would say, "Do not be afraid," and he himself was not afraid. Later on, though, it became necessary for someone from the security to be present. Because once people found out the Pope was going out, they always thought there was a chance to meet him.
In spring and fall, he spent his days hiking in the mountains, and even in winter, he never missed the chance to go skiing. An excellent skier, he would ride the cable car among the other people.
Sometimes there were such funny incidents. For example, in Ovindoli, the Pope was skiing down from the mountain, and somewhere about halfway, he stopped to pray. A little boy came up. He was about 8 or 9 years old. He looked and shouted, "Holy Father," and then skied down.
The stunning nature that surrounded him made evident the majesty of the divine. In this place, John Paul II immersed himself in dialogue with God and found the strength for the great challenges that awaited him upon his return to the Vatican. A particular mountain chapel, the tiny sanctuary of San Pietro della Ienca, was a favorite of John Paul II. He would often stop to pray and spend moments of silence with the Lord.
Around here, he could find true solitude. Now, the tiny sanctuary of San Pietro della Ienca is a place of worship, but at that time it was practically a shepherd's village, completely abandoned and ruined. Therefore, even this little church was just a bunch of rubble, but it remained a symbol of Christianity, and for him, it was very important.
In Rome, Magdalena Wolinska-Redi, EWTN News Nightly.
Finally tonight, it's September 9th, and today the church celebrates the feast of St. Peter Claver. St. Peter was born in 1580 in Spain. He became a Jesuit priest and missionary, dedicating his life to serving slaves in Colombia. He was known to board slave ships from Africa as they pulled into port to minister to the sick and dying. It is estimated that he baptized around 300,000 people and heard some 5,000 confessions a year. He died in 1654 and was canonized in 1888 by Pope Leo XIII. St. Peter Claver, pray for us. We thank you for watching tonight. Remember, you can still follow us on social media, Facebook, X, and Instagram at EWTN News Nightly. I'm Veronica Dudo. Good night and God bless.